Our sister station, KHOU, is a station so many people in Houston depend on. Now, if you haven't heard this story, KHOU had to evacuate. It's been flooded out. They have no link to their transmitter. They have no way to produce news. So for the last several hours, a group of journalists right here in Denver have been helping to make sure the people of Houston get the information they need. Our Steve Stager explains from our control room.
Oh my God.
When water overpowered the doors at KHOU, a major voice in a community in crisis went silent, but only for a few hours. The floodwaters of Harvey rendered the Houston Tegna TV station unusable. No control room means no television.
There really is no TV station for them to work out of.
We don't need 9 News Director of Technology and Operations Scott Gill to tell you what havoc water can wreak on TV equipment. It's pretty self-explanatory.
Kind of an interesting situation at these two shelters.
We'd rather have him explain the feat of engineering it takes to use a TV station in Denver to get KHOU back on TV screens in Houston.
They are using our control room, our graphics, our video playback equipment, basically everything here to make a TV show, and then it's being sent back via satellite to their transmitter.
Here's how it's working. KHOU is temporarily set up at a PBS station in Houston with no links to their transmitter. So they are beaming a satellite signal back to KUSA. Reporters on the ground are doing the same thing, either by satellite or by internet. We're taking those signals, mixing them together with graphics, and sending them back to KHOU's transmitter in Houston so the signal is available citywide.
This is a small control room over 1,000 miles away.
That was a great shot, thank you.
Our technology
Hi, this is Megan.
has the backs of hard-working journalists, a team telling the toughest story in its city's history.
These types of moments are the times when everyone steps up.
Hang on.
For Next, I'm Steve Stager.
Next question comes from a viewer named Stacy Scattergood. Hey, Next. My friend in Texas and I would like to know how much snow Colorado would be getting in place of Texas's 50 inches of rain. So that's going to require some math, Stacy, and possibly a meteorology degree. So it's good we have some people who know all about this stuff. We asked meteorologist Corey Reppenhagen to answer this for you.
Well, that would be one epic snowstorm. We usually get 10 to 30 times more snow from a storm than we get rain. And Colorado is pretty far from an ocean, so water vapor doesn't get transported here in large doses. But for fun, let's say we did get a storm with 50 inches of water available. If the snow-to-water ratio in Denver was 15-1, then we would get a 750-inch snowstorm, or 62.5 feet. The air in the mountains is even colder. We can get ratios near 30-1, which would be a 1,500-inch snowstorm or 125 feet. The biggest snowstorm we've ever had was 86 inches in Georgetown back in 1913. Loveland Ski Area gets some of the most snow in the state, and they average about 422 inches for a whole season.
Corey really knows his stuff. Another way to put this into perspective, take Niagara Falls. 750,000 gallons of water pour over the falls there every single second. Corey estimates that about 7 trillion gallons fell in the Houston area so far. So it would take 107 days for all of that water to flow over Niagara Falls. That's amazing. Seems like Colorado just won the lottery, $5 million as part of a massive national settlement with the embattled maker of the EpiPen. But here at Next, we just don't rely on press release headlines. Investigative reporter Chris Vanderveen says there's a lot more to this story. He's been following this one for more than a year now.
Ah, the EpiPen. You remember it, right?
You raised the price. What did you think was going to happen?
Seems as if the maker of the EpiPen, Mylan, recently said, okay, federal government, we'll pay you $465 million to settle a case. Seems like a lot, right? But pardon us here at Next if we just do a slow clap for now. Why? Well, consider this. For more than a decade, Mylan considered its EpiPen a generic drug. Sounds innocent, right? Well, maybe not. Because of Medicaid rebates, generic drug manufacturers must, by law, give a 13% rebate to the feds for every EpiPen purchased by a Medicaid patient. Here's the rub. Brand name manufacturers must offer a much larger rebate, not 13%, but 23%. And a few months ago, the federal government in this report said by improperly calling the EpiPen a generic when it was really a brand name, It underpaid taxpayers to the tune of $1.27 billion. Yep, $1.27 billion with a B. You don't need a degree in mathematics to know that's a heck of a lot more than $465 million. Yet that's what the feds settled upon. Colorado's share, $5.5 million, of which $2.2 million has to go back to the feds because of how Medicaid works, leaving Colorado with $3.3 million in some change. So yeah, we'll offer a round of applause. But in this case, we're only willing to go so far. For next, this is the now GIF-friendly Chris Vanderbeek.
Well done, Chris. Well done. Mylan's settlement with the feds also includes a provision where the company admits to no wrongdoing. Colorado will put this cash back into its Medicaid program. This next story really speaks to the absurd cost of property in Denver. We found a parking spot in downtown up for sale. Yes, a parking spot. The listing price, $59,000. We just had to hear from the realtor on this one, so here's her pitch.
Welcome to the gorgeous Spot 100. As you can see, there is fabulous space here. We have high ceilings next to the attendant, 24-hour security attendant. We are, in fact, the lowest priced parking spot in the entire garage here. This spot is priced exclusively at $59,000 for building residents only. It's absolutely not ridiculous at all. My name is Kara Groulet, realtor with Keller Williams Realty Downtown Denver. It's a function of the marketplace and how our home values have risen so much. It's a little more stark when you take a look at concrete. But this is land here, and this is land in a very high demand area. The location, location, location. When you think about it as a long-term investment, however, you kind of have to take a look at really what's going in your pocket at the end of the day. Not only do you maybe pay the premium price, but you're also getting that increase in your asset year over year. You can make $250 a month on a $59,000 parking space. Real estate is one of the only ways that you can actually profit in some ways on your investment and get that extra little step up that many of us need here in the city of Denver. This is a fantastic buy, actually. Yeah, low maintenance, low energy bills, great neighbors. This is a parking spot for you.
Again, that spot is yours just for $59 grand. That just happens to be about the average salary for someone living in Denver.
Denver is putting its money where its mouth is to provide sanctuary to people living in this country illegally. Mayor Michael Hancock has talked about Denver being welcoming and inclusive to people who are at risk of deportation. Well, now the city's putting together a legal defense fund for people here illegally and making it harder for federal immigration agents to get access to them once they're arrested in Denver. The mayor's announcement, made today before a crowd of supporters, did not specify who will pay for the legal defense of people here illegally. The mayor said he was leaving the door open to using taxpayer dollars. The announcement also didn't specify whether people here illegally who have been convicted of other more serious crimes could be defended from deportation by this city fund. The mayor says this change today is about protecting everyone who lives in the city of Denver, making everyone feel safe. We asked him a couple of times what message he believes that this sends to families who are outside the U.S., families considering making that dangerous and illegal crossing to seek sanctuary in a city like Denver.
Do you think it'll maybe have people come to Denver?
People coming every day.
ICE has blasted Denver's flirtation with full-blown sanctuary city status, saying that it puts people at risk, including the immigration agents forced to make arrests in riskier places rather than at Denver's jail. The mayor suggested that critics who have recently seized on cases where deportation suspects were released from Denver's jail against ICE's wishes and went on to commit other crimes. The mayor said that's about stereotyping.
I think it's always easy to make stereotypical statements when someone of any race or ethnicity commits a crime. The reality is that could be a native resident who's released who commits a crime. We're not about shielding criminals here. We're about making all citizens and residents of Denver safe, and we'll hold those who commit crimes in our city accountable.
Much of what Denver made law and rule today was already at least the unwritten policy of the city. But this does pretty much assure that the Trump Justice Department is going to try and withhold about $900,000 worth of law enforcement funding from Denver. Denver today joined Chicago in suing the feds in defense of sanctuary cities. Somebody stole a bike in Aspen. Newsworthy only because the bike was stolen from the sheriff. Swiped the bike right off the front porch of Pitkin County Sheriff Joe DeSalvo. And not just any bike either. Lance Armstrong gave that bike to the sheriff and his wife. A mechanic had dropped it off after giving it a tune-up, so it wasn't locked up for a few hours on the porch, and a thief saw an opening. Our next producer, Carrie, had to give the sheriff a little business for that.
I mean, if someone had called you or your sheriff's department and said, hey, my bike that Lance Armstrong gave me was stolen, and like we left it on the porch and it wasn't locked up, what would your response be?
You should lock your That's what I would say.
It's a pretty honest reaction, right? Lock your stuff. Sheriff says he'll take the bike back, no questions asked, just drop it off somewhere in town, make an anonymous call. He'll come get his bike and lock it up.